If you like to talk to tomatoes, if a squash can make you smile, if you like to waltz with potatoes, up and down the produce aisle. Have we got a show for you? How's it going, Tube Tech students? It's your boy Diddles, and I would like to welcome you back to another reaction video. Now today, we have Saber Sparks' video, What Ruined Veggietales? The Tragic Fall of Bob and Larry. Now, not many of you know this, but I am a big fan of Veggietales, and I am a huge fan of Saber Spark. So when I heard that he was doing this, I was so excited. I waited for months on end. I could not wait for this to come out, and now that it's here, I don't want to stall. I want to jump right in. So, short intro. What do you say we go ahead and jump right in? You stay right there, Junior. Say boo. What do you say we go ahead and jump right in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, Larry, it's time for the theme song.
Oh boy.
Yeah, Bob.
What do I do? Oh, Saber Spark.
I know. You play the guitar.
Bob. I don't have any hands.
Oh, you're right.
Oh,
well,
such
okay.
nostalgia.
Well, you play this.
This is
wanna
so.
play that?
This is already
Well,
so well
silly.
made.
Oh,
and I
come
love
on.
It.
It'll be
fun.
Nope. Not gonna do it.
It's for the kids.
Oh, okay.
Yo,
They
I'm
better not
ready.
laugh.
The nostalgia is
there.
real. The nostalgia is real with this one. Hey, Larry, what's up, boy? Come at me, buddy. Come on.
A few months ago, I got nostalgic for, of all things, Veggietales. And it got me to thinking, whatever happened to it? You know, Veggietales, that Christian cartoon with the CG vegetables, who would reenact stories from the Bible. Well, I looked into it.
It's still
what
going
I discovered
on. It's still
was
going
one of the
strong.
most disastrous failures of a studio in animation history. Folks, have I got a story for you?
Hey, I did the same thing, sort of.
I thought that Veggietales fell in popularity
Netflix.
because they removed God from the reboots. Something about NBC and Netflix downplaying the religious stuff. And that's why Veggietales failed, right? Oh, guys.
Maybe not still going strong.
There
Let
is
me go ahead
so
and
much
rephrase
more to it than that. On one hand, you have a
don't
show
like
that
the
was
colored
truly
irises. I
groundbreaking
don't.
on multiple levels. Veggietales was the most successful Christian's children's franchise of
Hey,
all
little drummer
time, and was also the most successful direct-to-video series in history.
Of
There
course
was
it
even a
was.
time when it was one of the most popular kids' video series in the world, and was
Makes
only
sense.
second to Pokemon. I guess Pikachu was a little too strong.
Damn, no. Pikachu, stop.
On top of
Not Larry.
that, Veggietales was also a trailblazer when it came to the world of animation, and was one of the earliest computer animated franchises. Their first episode came out in December of 1993, 2 years before Toy Story. I mean,
Oh, wow.
we're talking about a show that was so popular that even non-Christian people would happily watch it. Believe me when I say, that's incredibly rare. More often than not, secular audiences don't really partake in Christian content. I mean,
Yeah.
to which I can't imagine why. It's so good. Don't you want to watch Bible Man?
As Bible Man.
No, please. No, please. Not Bible Man. Anything but Bible Man, please.
What's that?
But despite the accomplishments of
Which one was that?
Veggietales,
I don't think
it
I saw
also
that one.
suffered some devastating defeats. Again, I thought that removing God from the series was the only thing that ruined it.
Oh, Larry Boy and
No.
the Bad Apple.
Let me get the list. There was poor management, massive layoffs, failed spin-offs, unfair distribution deals, creating a movie that cost twice its original budget,
Really?
bankruptcy, lawsuits, and ultimately,
Lawsuits?
broken dreams. And whose dreams were these? Well, that would be Phil Vischer, the creator
damn,
of
Phil.
Big Idea Entertainment and Veggietales. This guy was taken for a ride, for an absolute ride, and essentially had his creation ripped from his arms. Seriously, I have never felt more pity for a person in the animation industry than Phil. But Phil is very open about his downfall, and even wrote a book about it. It's called Me, Myself, and Bob.
Oh, I gotta get my hands on that.
A book that was so informative and good that I read it twice. No joke. This is the hardest I've ever gone researching a topic. I mean, I grew up with Veggietales, and it means a lot to me. I rewatched the episodes, listened to the soundtrack. Good? I got to interview Phil.
Or Duke in the Great Pie War.
I strictly ate meat for the past 5 months just to be safe. And I even bought these puppets of the characters from eBay.
Oh no.
I actually don't know. I felt
that's terrifying, Saber.
I just like they were whispering my name.
Stop. Stop. Oh, okay. Oh, fuck you, Saber.
So let's take a closer look.
That got me.
At what ruined Veggietales.
I love how diluted the originals look.
When it comes to the fall of Veggietales, no one played a bigger role than that of Phil Vischer, the creator of the show. Now, for the record, there's a co-creator named Mike Naraki, but we'll get to him in a bit. For now, let's talk about Phil and how this quiet, nerdy kid would go on to make history. And what better place to start than the very beginning?
In the beginning, God created.
Phil was born in June of 1966 in Muscatine, Iowa, and belonged to a very Christian family. Sunday service, Sunday school, Awanas, the works.
Awana?
Heck, Phil's great-grandfather on his mother's side was a famous radio preacher. The Reverend R.R. Brown of Omaha, Nebraska, which, let's be real here, sounds like a rapper's name. He's spitting those biblical rhymes with fire and brimstone. And you better believe if you're passing me that auxiliary chord in 1923, we're gonna be listening to RRR. Phil was a weird kid. His words, not mine. He said he loved to build things, watch TV, and that he had no shortage of weird thoughts. Thoughts that he would share and would get him in trouble with Sunday school teachers.
Oh, dang.
They saw Phil as a class clown and warned his parents of his behavior. According to him, he didn't want to disappoint his parents, so he became very quiet instead, but still had these weird thoughts dancing around his head.
Don't do that.
Instead of hanging out with other kids, Phil would play with puppets and would experiment with his family's video equipment by making stop-motion films with his toys. But when Phil turned 9 years old, something happened that would heavily impact him. His parents got divorced. This truly shook Phil to his core, and the ramifications of his parents' failed marriage would follow him for the rest of his life. It would even play a role in the rise and fall of Veggietales.
Really?
Legit, something broke in Phil the day his father left the family, and Phil would never look at relationships the same way again. Why trust people when they could just leave your life? Just so you know, divorce is a very big theme in this story, so keep that in mind as we move along.
I will.
Phil would remain with his mother and his siblings as he grew up, but the family moved to Glen Ellen, Illinois following the divorce. That's where Phil would spend his high school years and would continue to advance his skills in movie making and special effects. As a matter of fact, Phil was quickly realizing that he had a real talent and passion for understanding how things worked, specifically with films. Movies, such as Star Wars and Tron, heavily inspired him to pursue this path and to see where computers and programming could take him. He even taught himself how to use mathematical equations to make a ball bounce on his Atari 400. According to Phil, quote, computers were infinitely reliable, unlike people. And then it arrived. MTV was a game changer, both for television and for Phil.
See new video music you can't see anywhere else. New contests, new specials, new guest VJs, new news.
He was blown away by the creative aspect of MTV and what it was bringing to the table. Music videos and content that broke all the rules. To an artist like Phil, it was a revelation. To a Christian like Phil, it was more like the book of Revelation.
That must have been a crazy time when MTV.
Pelvic thrusting, curves on woman, Beavis and head. Phil was very alarmed at the ethical implications of MTV. and what the channel was broadcasting into the very homes of red-blooded Americans.
Oh, dang. She's gay now. Who would have known? Can't believe it.
The soul of the nation was now at risk, and MTV was the catalyst that made Phil realize what his purpose in life would be: to use filmmaking as a way to reach out to people and bring them closer to God. It would be both his job and his ministry. And how did Phil begin this journey? By dropping out of college. He went to St. Paul Bible College for 3 semesters.
Really?
But then was kicked out for failing chapel. Phil, dude.
Really?
How did you fail chapel? All you gotta do is read the Bible out loud. Here, I'll do it. In the beginning, Gosh created the... In the beginning, Gosh created the In the beginning, Gosh created the heavens and the... it's not Gosh, is it? In the beginning, Gosh created the heavens... son of a... But college was not a complete loss for Phil, for it was there that he met the future co-creator of Veggietales, Mike Naraki. The two were on a puppet team at the college and would go to churches and nursing homes to put on shows. Puppets.
Don't do it, Saber, please.
Oh, God.
Saber, no, please.
Oh my God.
I can't.
They would
take
even
this
write
again,
scripts
please.
together, to which one would become the future basis for a VeggieTales short called The Forgive-O-Matic. Needless to say, Phil and Mike really clicked, but both of them would fail college and eventually went their separate ways. But of course, only for a bit. Their paths would eventually cross in the near future. But in the meanwhile, Phil here needed a job and went back to the suburbs of Chicago to search for one. So Phil was now a college dropout and was on the hunt for a job. In 1985, he found one at a Christian video production company in Chicago. There, he would duplicate VHS cassettes. Remember those?
I do. I do remember them. A lot.
And he would work the graveyard shift.
Why?
But according to Phil, he preferred that. He got to be alone and could spend his free time at work reading up on other equipment and teaching himself how it works. As a matter of fact, that's how he became a video editor. In 1986, the first wave of computer animated companies started to arrive and were being hired to create commercials for companies. Well, it turns out that Phil's boss wanted to get in on this growing market and bought something called the Bosch FGS 4000, one of the first commercially available computer animation systems. Phil's boss even paid to train him to understand the equipment. Around this time, Mike came back into the picture and joined up at Phil's company. Soon after that, the boss made the decision to move the office into the heart of Chicago, and Phil and Mike both decided to move downtown with it. So there you have Phil and Mike, two young guys working at a production company in Chicago. But then they had the idea to make their own little project on the side called A Day at the Beach. It featured Phil and Mike wearing sunglasses as they drove a banana car through a cartoon world, and a bunch of other silly antics. In a way, if you replace Phil and Mike for Bob and Larry, you're kind of looking at the very first VeggieTales
Is there
film.
a way we can still watch
But
that?
after 3 years of working at the production company, Phil decided that it was time to set off and launch his own business. He wanted to play a larger role when it came to the creative process and marketing of a company. In February of 1989, Phil launched GraphX Studios and started to look for business opportunities and clients to work with. Now, a big challenge Phil initially faced was affording equipment. So he struck a deal with another production company, where he would buy time to use their equipment, but at night. But then a certain someone entered Phil's life. Someone very special. Lisa. Lisa and Phil originally met at a Bible conference and really hit it off. Like, really well. Cause the two got married after dating for like, what, 2 years? And then they had a kid on the way. And to make matters worse, Phil was broke.
Oh, dang.
But money isn't everything.
Big oof indeed.
Bite your tongue. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
But real talk, Phil and Lisa
YouTube.
really clicked.
No, you're not.
It turns out that Lisa's parents were also divorced. so the two were able to relate over that. In the book, Phil says that his successful marriage with Lisa is his greatest achievement in life. Which, let's be real here, is really saying something. Since Phil wrote this amazing song.
Everybody got a
Water buffalo, yours is big, but mine is slow. Where we get them,
and that's hard to top. So life was starting to pile up.
I don't know how I forgot the word fast, but I did.
Believe me, this was just the beginning. At this point of the story, we're going through the fun underdog phase. Just wait till we get to the real drama.
I am not prepared.
Phil said in his book that computer animation would be the key to his storytelling. But he also knew how difficult that path would be. He even considered going the live action route and copying the successes of other Christian shows like McGee and Me, which, to be fair, had some animated segments too. By the way, folks, I watched an episode of this, and it is the most 1990s show ever made.
It is very nice.
It's like what Horsing Around was making fun of. Around this time, McGee and Me was the talk of the Christian town and was the show to beat. It was very popular in Christian bookstores
and I don't remember what it was.
And was handled by Focus on the Family and Tyndall House Productions. But Phil here thought, maybe I can do better. Maybe, just maybe, I can produce my own half-hour-long computer animated home video. A chance for him to create art and launch his ministry. I mean, how hard could it be?
That's one fine-looking
ministry.
Why doesn't mine look like that?
I should probably watch The Simpsons at some point.
In early 1990, Phil kicked things up with his pursuit of computer animation and decided to go to SIGGRAPH, which stands for Special Interest Group on Graphics and Interactive Technologies. It was basically a convention for folks who wanted to discuss and showcase computer graphics. There were lots of big people from the industry there. But the biggest takeaway for Phil was the introduction of a brand new technique called lattice deformation. It allowed animation models to stretch and squash as they moved. Folks, this was a game changer for the animation industry and especially for Phil. Even Pixar's old animated shorts did not have this kind of animation.
Really?
But Phil's could. He decided to get his hands on this new animation software and make his half-hour-long film. He would just have to make sure that he had compelling, yet simple characters to work alongside the software. Something without limbs. So during the day, Phil would do work for his clients. And then at night, he would focus on making his kids show. The only problem? It's always a problem, isn't it?
Money.
The software Phil needed cost around $25,000. But his stepfather was kind enough to lend him the money for the program. Phil got lucky, but still had quite the road ahead of him. He had a wife, he had a kid on the way, and he had a small business that was hanging on by a thread. But he was optimistic. He got to test out the lattice deformation for a client, and they absolutely loved it. Phil then made his own character for a test run and created Nerf Ball Guy, which was a total success.
What?
That ain't right.
But then he realized that he needed characters that were even more simple. Monopod bodies, no arms, no legs. If there was going to be any effort on these characters, it was going to be focused on their eyes. And that was a brilliant decision.
It really
considering
was.
that most CG characters at the time had rigid eyes that lacked expression. Phil wanted to capture the cartoony eyes from the old days of animation, like with Daffy Duck or Bugs Bunny. It is legit amazing that the limitations Phil faced would actually provide a solution that would make his characters truly stand out. And now we get to the part where the magic begins. Wait,
yes,
magic?
Please.
No, that's witchcraft. So Phil had the technology and a rough idea of what he wanted to do. Now he just needed to finalize his characters. What about, talking candy? Yeah, hey, that could work. Hold it, said Lisa Vischer. You know, moms are going to be mad if you make their kids fall in love with candy bars.
True.
Oh my. She's right, said Phil. Talking vegetables would be much more palatable. So Phil decided to create a cucumber character, who he nicknamed Mr. Cuke. Ah, sweet! An early version of Larry. It was like part of his evolutionary process.
Oh, Agumon, what Digivolve too?
Is this Digimon? Okay, well.
Phil and Mike also started to brainstorm stories for the show and thought about doing spoofs on classic literature, like The Grapes of Wrath. And it would be Mike who came up with the name for the show. Phil then went to a company called David C. Cook to see if they wanted to invest in the production of Veggietales. Now, they liked the test footage of Mr. Cuke, but they were only interested in selling the show, not funding it. Phil then went to Tyndall House, and they said the same thing. No dice. Phil was really starting to feel the burn. His kid finally arrived, but he barely had any money. Despite this, he was determined to push on with Veggietales and saw it as a call from God. And here's an interesting fun fact. Phil actually pitched Veggietales to Nickelodeon back in the day.
Really?
When they were on the hunt for their first 3 Nicktoons. They considered the idea, but ultimately said no. We don't do computer animation. Jimmy Neutron laughing in the distance. Well, it wasn't all doom and gloom. Yet. But Phil finally came up with Bob the Tomato and officially had his veggie duo ready to go. Heck, Phil would even go on to voice Bob, and Mike would voice Larry. After that, the two put together a short featuring Bob and Larry as a way to pitch the show to potential investors. But nobody was interested. It got to the point where Phil could barely afford food. And for the first time since his journey began, he doubted himself. He thought maybe God was wrong on this one. But according to Phil, he got this random check in the mail for $400 from some anonymous source and saw it as a sign to keep pushing forward. So he kept at it. He even got some advice from his mother about how to portray Christianity in the show. Number 1, do not portray Jesus as a vegetable. Good call, Phil's mom.
Didn't they do that years?
Number 2, try not to imply that the vegetables can have redemptive relationships with God.
Years down the line, didn't they make them a
Don't show the vegetables praying unless they're playing the role of a historical or biblical figure. And number 3, try to communicate to kids how God made each one of them unique, and he loves them very much. She said, that is your most important message. That advice would serve Phil well as he pushed forward. But then, something amazing happened.
That's what I need.
Phil got $80,000 from a friend. Just a guy who was like, hey man, I really believe in what you're doing, and it needs to happen. Which is like, incredible. I mean, none of my friends have given me $80,000. To which, at that point, are they really even my friends? You know who you are.
One day.
Strap in, folks. Things are about to take off for Phil. He got a chance to pitch his show to some Christian ministry that aired kids shows in the Middle East. This mysterious stranger from the ministry, who couldn't even reveal his name due to security reasons. Okay. Well, the guy struck a deal with Phil and said, we will pay you $110,000 in exchange for 11 episodes of Veggietales. Boom. There it is. Phil finally secured funding. And now it was time to make a show.
Allow us to introduce ourselves.